Hey everyone, it's Emily, and today I want to talk about the backlog, specifically in ways to totally crush it this year. I don't know about all of you, but my backlog has been so out of hand these last few years, and I think it's time to really narrow down and just focus on it and not get too distracted with so many new releases. I kind of touched on this topic already, specifically in my audit video I made earlier this year, where I looked at all of my video game purchases I made in 2023. But I really wanted to go on a low buy this year and really just focus on narrowing down my backlog, which is already filled with so many amazing games that I really do want to get to. So I've actually built a tool that I think will be super helpful for anyone else who also wants to conquer their backlog this year. And I'm going to kind of use it as my guiding force this year when it comes to determining which games I play. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over to the tool now to show how to implement it and how it's going to help me reduce my backlog for this year. So I'd like to introduce the Backlog Randomizer for 2024. I built this using Google Sheets, so you are welcome to a free copy. All you have to do is go to File and make a copy. And so that will allow you access to the spreadsheet, and you're able to fill in all the list of games that are in your backlog and customize this however you wish. So the idea behind this tool is that the backlog can be very intimidating to get to, especially if it's very extensive like my own. So the randomizing tool, I think, is a good way to inspire playing games that you already own. So let's say you're in the mood to just play any game on your backlog, no matter what system or what genre the game may be in. So all you have to do is go to this fourth row here for any game and click on this drop down to the randomize button, and it's just going to generate a random game from your backlog. In my case, this is a visual novel, Best of Fellows. It's a game or a possibility of a game that I can play. If you happen to draw a game that you're really not in the mood for, all you have to do is go to reset. It kind of resets the randomization, and then just do another random draw. In this case, it's for me, it's Miramasa Rebirth on the PS Vita. So I think this is a really useful tool, especially for those who just don't know where to start with their backlog. But let's say you have a specific system in mind that you want to play on, whether it's a handheld or you've noticed you have way too many Switch games, so you want to start narrowing down that backlog specifically. All you have to do is go to, again, select randomize for the column of the system you're interested in. So in this case, I'm looking at a random Switch game. It's telling me to play OPS Collection, The Day We Found Earth plus Rocket of Whispers. So I think this is a super handy tool, and I've also randomized this by genre. So say you're in the mood for an action RPG or a visual novel, this randomization tool should help cater to whatever game you're in the mood for. If you scroll down here, there's also randomized by priority. So once you enter games in your backlog list, you have an option of how many stars that you want to prioritize it. In my case, 5 being the highest priority and 1 being the lowest priority for my backlog. So this will go again across any system, any genre, and I'll select a game from that. So for one of my 5-star priority games, it's suggesting Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker. And then lastly, sometimes the length of the game really matters. So down here, I have randomized by length, and I have it in 3 different categories. For games that are less than 20 hours, between 20 and 50 hours, and then more than 50 hours. So say you just finished a really long RPG and you're in the mood for something a little bit shorter. So if you want to select a game that's less than 20 hours, here I have The Borderer Frankenstein's Creature selected for me. So I hope these randomization features will help those who also suffer from choice paralysis when tackling their backlog. Now I'm going to move on to the backlog tab here, and this is where I entered all the games that are in my backlog. And as you see here, there's quite a few. And honestly, this is not all the games in my backlog, but I think narrowing down the list to around 50 or however many games you're comfortable with will kind of help make this a more feasible plan, and also just have games listed here that you really want to play this year. So you can make this however long or short as you wish, depending on how extensive your backlog is. For me, I have 54 games right now listed. And the beauty of a list like this is you're able to add or subtract games whenever you wish, and the randomization tool will just have an equal weight for every single game on this list. And for those who watched my other spreadsheet video, you might be familiar with some of these drop downs, but I've done this just to make it very easy to categorize all the systems and the genres, as well as the priority in the drop downs. So right now I just have a few different genres that I really want to focus on this year, but if you're interested in adding another genre, depending on what your backlog looks like, all you have to do is go to the edit button and add another option. So say you want to have a fighting game be present in your backlog randomizer. All you have to do is this and apply all, and that will now be an option in the drop-down feature. I also think the hours to beat a game is a very important metric in determining how to, finesse your backlog. So I actually use the How Long to Beat website to generate these estimates for each game on this list, and I went with the estimate for how long to complete the story as well as do some of the side quests and things, because I usually like to play my games a little bit more thoroughly than just completing the main story. Now let's say that we finished Valkyria Chronicles 4 on our backlog. So what you want to do is to copy this row with all the different metrics and move it over to the finished sheet here. So here it is, and I also added a few record keeping sort of columns here, including the finished date, how many actual hours it took you to beat the game, as well as your overall rating of how much you enjoyed the game itself, using again the 1 to 5 star rating system. So let's say we beat this in 2024 in January on the 12th, and it took us roughly 48 hours to beat. And let's say it was just an awesome game, so it was 5 stars. And so now you'll have an entry, and also I think a good thing to look back on when you want to reflect on all the games that you beat throughout the year. And so once you've moved over your finished game to the Finish tab, you'll then want to delete it from the Backlog tab so it doesn't come up again in the randomization tool. And being the big stats nerd that I am, I also have a tab to show some characteristics of both your backlog as well as the games you finished this year. So the first 3 columns represent some characteristics of your current backlog. And again, this will change depending on how many games you delete from this list or add to. So currently, with my 54 games that are on my backlog list, the most of them are on the Switch, followed by the 3DS, and then I have a few on other systems. And if you happen to add any extra genres or systems to this list, you could also accommodate that in this statistics analysis by simply inserting a row below. And because we added the fighting genre, you just type in fighting here. The same way we have it in the drop-down category. And you could just drag down the formula. That way it's going to count how many games in your backlog are listed as a fighting game. And to get the percentage, you could also just simply drop this down. And thankfully you don't have to change the formulas around. I had someone point this out to me in my last spreadsheet video, but when you put the dollar signs like this in the denominator, it helps make it so that this specific cell is repeated whenever you use that pull down option. And you could do the same for the finished games side. It also has it broken down by priority and the length of the games in your backlog, as well as the actual length that you beat it. You could also add if you wanted the average. So let's say you want the average length of games here. The formula is average, and we're going to call upon the backlog sheet. And we're going to start at B2 because the title takes up the first row, and go all the way down to all the Bs that are listed there. And we have an average of 37.6 hours per game currently on the backlog list. And you could, again, do the same thing for finished, but instead of drawing from the backlog tab, we're going to be drawing from the finished tab. So this is average, finished, and then we're going to do the actual length. So if we go back to our finished tab, which is in column G, not B, do G2 to all of G, and it's 48 because right now we just have a sample size of 1. So So that's the rundown of how to use this tool to kind of help conquer your backlog for this year. Again, I hope many of you find this tool very useful, and I guess I'll end this video by emphasizing that this is just a useful tool that you may or may not want to use. I think everyone has their own style when it comes to tackling their backlog. For me, I definitely suffer from choice paralysis a lot of the times, just because I have so many amazing games on the shelves behind me in my library. Sometimes it's a little hard to narrow it down. And I definitely plan to share some updates regarding my backlog and what games I've been playing and whatnot with you all throughout this year, and really hope to stay on my low buy and just focus on the games I already own. So I wish everyone luck who was also trying to conquer their backlog this year, and I'd love to hear some of your success stories or strategies that you've implemented that might be a little bit different from what I have here. I have a few more videos planned that I'm hoping to get out soon that hopefully you're all looking forward to, and until then, bye guys.